Okay, so first part of review is these first three questions here. So let's take a look and see what they say. So the first one, what other construction is done when constructing parallel lines? So if you remember, when we do a parallel line, it looks something like this. You start with a line and a point, and then we drew another line through there. And then from there, we found out what this arc angle was, and we came up here and we duplicated that angle up here. And then we drew that parallel line through there. So when you're doing parallel lines, the other construction that's completed is a duplicated angle or congruent angles. So constructing congruent angles is the other construction done when doing parallel lines. Now keep in mind, when we're doing congruent angles, that makes these lines parallel by that converse of the corresponding angles postulate. Angles postulate. Alright, so that's the first one. Remember, it's the converse of corresponding because this angle here and this angle here correspond to each other. And if they're congruent and corresponding, that means these two lines must be parallel. Alright, question 1 done. Take a look at question 2. What other construction is done when constructing a square inscribed in a circle? So remember, for this construction, the first thing you did was you started with a circle. It's going to be a rough sketch here. So we started with a circle. Then from there, we drew a diameter through that circle. Then what we wanted was another diameter that is perpendicular to this diameter. So if we do a perpendicular bisector, then we get our diameter, and then you can connect those up to get your square. So that step there is that other piece, that's that perpendicular bisector. So what other construction is done? The construction of a perpendicular bisector. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, finally, last construction. How do we know that the construction for a congruent angle actually works? So if you remember this, a congruent angle was where we started with an angle such as that, and we wanted to make that was one that was congruent to it. So to do that, we drew a ray, and then what we did was we drew an arc on this angle, and we drew the same arc on that ray. So now what we've gotten is we've got a congruent piece here and here from that vertex of the angle. Then what we did was we found the distance between that point of intersection and that point of intersection, and we duplicated that down here. So now we have this congruent piece here. And then finally we connected up this piece to that point. So we have a third congruent piece there. So then what we get is two triangles. So we get congruent triangles by side, side, side. Because if you guys look, we got side, side, side. So congruent triangles by side, side, side. Then the angles must be congruent by CP, CTC. And that's it. So how do we know the construction of a congruent angle actually works? Well, because we constructed two congruent triangles, which then would create two congruent angles by CP-CTC. Alright, so there's your first three questions on the review. You can watch it again if you have any further questions, or just feel free to message me on your mind. Alright guys, enjoy.